people coming in. So like, let's bring it in. We can add more music. I like it. We're going to add some more to it. Everyone, thanks for showing up. This is our first Zive Alive, like our gut health call that we do. We've done this, I think, for the past since May, since a year now. We've been doing this, but we're opening it, and Zive has done incredible. But we've opened this because, you know, obviously we made Zive. It's like our flagship. It's like my life's work. It's Dr. Anna's, like all of it to come into this. And we launched this to really help from this perspective of gut greatness. But our calls are so much more than a product. And that's what we never want anyone who's coming to think that, oh, you got to take Zive to be part of this call. No, you don't. We have opened these calls. We just sent out to, I think, 50,000 on our list. Dr. Anna's going to send to her email list. We're going to make this open. So if you know someone and they want to learn about gut health, have them come in. We just crushed the PHC3 club call. We're going to avoid the emotion. Our dear friend John Brankus passed away this past weekend. And I remember we developed Zive while we were doing our show on Brinks TV, but we did a tribute to him on PFC3. We're going to avoid that because the emotion was hard. But just a reminder, if anyone is ever suffering from mental health or depression or suicidal thoughts, please reach out to the people you love. Please get help. Please get assistance. The work that we do with PFC3, the work that we do with Zive, the work that Anna does, the work that we do with our partnerships and Super Patch and other companies is all about helping you live your greatest life, your greatest health. And our goal from the point of today is, in every live that we show up every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time, is to help you understand the power of your digestive system, the 7 steps of your digestive system, because all disease starts in your gut. And if you can optimize how your gut works, everything else is improved. Is that correct, Dr. Anna?
That is 100% correct. My mantra.
Okay. So tonight, we're talking about zonulin, which when I started teaching nutrition, we didn't even know existed. Discovered it in 2000. It is something that drives directly to leaky gut. And we're going to walk you through the process on this. And then we're also talking about glyphosate. We're talking about how even when you have organic grains, you might be getting a little poison in you. So we want to really show you, and that's our goal. Every single week, we have a specific topic. I'm going to show you, if you're new to us right now on the Zive Alive group, you can join this. If somebody refers you or you say, hey, I was on the call, I want to join it, you can check it out. You can see the replays because 2 weeks ago, we did seed oils. Every week, we did a different topic to help you understand that. So let's dive in. You ready, Dr. Anna?
I'm born ready.
Okay, so this is our Facebook group, Zive Alive. When you go to the guide section, you can see we did seed oils, we did liver and kidney, plant-based option with Coach Bev, on your go food system, neurotransmitter, serotonin, dopamine. Every single week, there's a different topic every Monday night. Instagram, just go to Shop Zive. You can see all the different topics. Carrie did a great video on menopause. You can see that. You can see Dr. Anna's Instagram. She really dives into, from a gut health side. If you're not following her, make sure that you follow her. And then, like on my Instagram right here, like I love this. This is my wife, Abby. And, you know, Abby's had massive gut health problems. And it's like, this is why the heart behind what we do, why we're doing what we're doing. It's always about helping people live their best health and understanding that. You can go to Shop Zive. You can check out the reviews. When you think about gut science, this is what we're really talking about, the 7, like what it is and the 7 steps of digestion. We have a great Zive 7 protocol, taking 2, adding 1 to 2 additional capsules, evaluate your gut health. And then if you want to improve it, and we're going to kind of dive into this tonight about how to eat cleaner and how to learn about gluten in dairy and soy, but specifically gluten, grains, and zonulin. And then like the ingredient side to it, as we go back and forth and we dive into it, we'll talk about the label and some ways to counter it. And then that's what we'll do when we talk about this label in particular. But without further ado, Dr. Anna, tonight's about leaky gut, about zonulin and glyphosate. So talk to us first about what is leaky gut.
Leaky gut is a process through which the lining of the intestines no longer protect you from the toxins that are within the intestinal tract. So basically, if you think of the intestines like a hose, it's way more complicated than that. Just let's imagine for a second. We're not talking about a hole all the way through that hose that ruptures into your abdomen. That's a totally different process. What we're talking about is on the microscopic level. The lining of that intestinal tract is supposed to protect you from digestive enzymes and from bacteria and from the pH, acid from your stomach. I mean, you are being protected from digesting yourself with a thin layer of cells and a little bit of mucus on those cells. So if those cells get a little crack in between the cells, now all of a sudden toxins and stuff can leak
Mhm.
below that little layer and then get below the layer of that cell and cause inflammation. And so, the example we started talking about was like a tile floor that has grout in it. But if you get a little crack in that grout, water gets through the grout and then can get to the floorboards underneath your tile and start ruining things. And then now you have to remodel your bathroom, right? So this is the same process that can happen. Leaky gut is what we term that, for lack of better words. That's not really a medical diagnosis, but it's what we call it. And it's caused by a process through which you lose that integrity. The number one cause of that is this molecule zonulin that you're wanting to discuss tonight.
And I think what happens, and I think it's everyone take a step back and think about the food that you eat. Working with Dr. Anna, because I've taught blood sugar my whole life, and I've obviously done some from a gut health side and launched digestive products. But Anna took my education to a whole nother level like the last couple of years. And what I would say is if we go back to kind of like Anna, I think we talk about as we're going to dive into zonulin and everything. If we go back to, I'm trying to find the one right here, the 7 steps of digestion, and not regarding Zyve, because I think it's important. The 7 steps of digestion is what your body does. So, like, walk us through, and then we'll dive right into zonulin and glyphosate and the grains and what triggers the leaky gut. But walk us through kind of like the digestive system and why
Yeah,
each
sure.
step matters.
Right. So, I mean, you can kind of imagine this long tube is falling into sort of a upper gut, mid gut, hind gut phenomenon. And the upper gut is responsible for taking food that you've just eaten and broken it into tiny, tiny little pieces. And it does that with acid and churning around, and you're chewing food, and there's digestive enzymes that break stuff down. That's the upper intestinal tract, right? The stomach, the duodenum, the first little of the intestines. The middle part of your gut is responsible for absorbing a lot of those nutrients. And that is where that lining of the intestines is so important because the same enzymes that break your food up, trust me, will eat you alive. You have to protect the lining of your intestinal tract so you don't eat yourself alive. So you need to make that lining stronger while still allowing it to absorb nutrients. In the process, there towards the hind gut part of it, that's where the bacteria are supposed to live. Your microbiome lives that little smidge of the small intestine as it enters into the colon, and then really mainly the colon. The colon really is only responsible for absorbing water and salt. You want to make sure, I mean, it's a one-way highway, Mark.
One way highway.
One way, baby. Right? Everything needs to go this one way. Otherwise, you get a traffic jam. And as things start packing up, if you're having constipation, if you're having slow motility, all of a sudden your stomach starts backing up and you're getting reflux. All of a sudden, the pH of the middle part of your gut is inappropriate. It becomes too alkaline. The bacteria start moving closer to the stomach, and you wind up getting gas bloat, diarrhea, constipation, belly pains, cramps, and this digestive dysfunction. And I will tell you the number of, and we don't have a good answer for that, by the way. The workup is a $10,000, $20,000 medical workup to prove you don't have cancer, Crohn's disease, some other issue, for it to be, oh, I got IBS. And there's nothing that we can really do for IBS that's permanent except change the way you live, change the way that you eat, change what it is that your surroundings are made of. And that's the only way to combat the IBS situation. So that's kind of the normal digestion and how it can kind of fall apart.
And it's the one-way highway. So when we think
Oh yeah.
about acid reflux, when we think about constipation, this is when things are not working. So the goal every week is we hit each topic to drive that. Now, what's cool is Coach Bev, who's our plant-based guru, just said at my last blood draw, my doctor included Zonulin on my panel. So like now we're testing for it. So let's dive into this, because when we think about, if you understand your gut health, it controls everything. And the goal is, how can you make it as optimal as possible? Well, there's a couple things. Like we talk about this. Glyphosate is a widely used herbicide, primarily known as an active ingredient product like Roundup. So like when we think about this, we're going to talk about this in grains. And then zonulin, as Dr. Anna talked about, it's a protein that modulates, but it's just like that tile. When you think about the tile, and everyone just imagine a beautiful new house with the most amazing grout, like beautiful. And then think of some nasty house or outdoor, like go to a rest area bathroom
Right. Oh my
and look
God.
at that floor with that grout.
Mm-mm.
And that is what's happening. So think about a pristine house that you see on like the old show, The Rich and the Famous, and it's like, oh, so beautiful.
Right, Brad.
And then you go to a rest stop bathroom or a gas station bathroom, and you see that tile with the chunks of the grout missing and all the dirt.
Yes.
That is what happens when you're taking in too much zonulin. So this is what triggers leaky gut. How is that visual? Does everyone like that? Give me a 1 if you like that
That
visual.
is
The
that
next
is
time you want to eat gluten, I want you to imagine that you're like eating something from the bathroom floor bottom.
yum yum yum. Yum yum yum.
So walk us through this. Because I'm going to show some things, but walk us through why gluten. Like, give us the 3 things that really trigger zonulin.
Yeah, so gluten is the number one. That's how they discovered zonulin was in celiac patients, which is why we talk about it. Gluten is number one, and you do not have to be a celiac patient for this to happen. This is chemically happening in every mammal they have ever tested with gluten. So this is not
And
a
and
huge
what has gluten in it? Walk us through it.
wheat, barley, and rye all contain a gluten molecule. Okay. And so wheat, barley, and rye are all going to cause this response. There's no way around it. The question is, how bad is it in you? Okay. So that's the number one. The other one that is important because it is present in all grains and almost all of our fruits and veggies, unless you're getting organic non-GMO. And even if you're getting organic non-GMO, is glyphosate. This herbicide triggers the zonulin response. And I'll talk about that here in a minute, but some of that is why you can tolerate wheat in Europe, whereas you can't tolerate wheat in America. And it's going to be the glyphosate part of that puzzle. A third thing that can cause zonulin response are actually viral infections and other inflammatory food additives. I suspect seed oil, and I haven't done the deep dive on that, but I suspect seed oil would do that too. Anything that's considered an inflammatory molecule, your body will zonulin comes from you, right? So in the presence of something inflammatory, why your body does this, I don't know, but this protein looks exactly like cholera toxin, which makes people sick and kills people, actually. So you're making tiny little bits of cholera toxin every time you're eating some of these substances. Now, the good news about zonulin is it's temporary. Like if you can imagine all these cells, the little grout is like a sliding glass door that opens and closes. Okay, if you're only exposed to a little bit of gluten, okay, and it shuts off. But when you're grazing on that crap all day long, those doors are open all day long. Those doors are open all day long. And the source of all chronic illness can be traced to elevated zonulin levels. And this is why doctors are starting to test that in routine labs. Now, granted, usually it's kind of like wellness doctors and some family practice type doctors are the first ones to check it. Like a doctor like me only checks it if someone's coming in with IBS symptoms. It's just not part of my
Right.
practice as a surgeon. But it is something that they test. They're looking for this as an inflammatory marker.
So So let's talk about this. So you said there's a tipping point. So part of why Zyve matters is Zyve helps counter some of these things. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. But before that, so wheat, what is it again with the three? It's wheat,
Wheat,
barley, and rye. Okay,
wheat,
so
barley,
wheat,
rye,
barley, and rye. You
contain
then
gluten.
move into any type of grains,
Yes.
because let's just address this. Any type of grains, because even grains that are organic can actually still have
Correct.
glyphosate. Like what, how is that
So,
possible?
right, I know. See, and I did not believe that. In fact, I recently did this research because I thought that's bullshit. What are we talking about here? Like, what am I eating if I'm reading a damn label? Okay, so to be labeled organic simply means that while the crop is raised and until the crop gets to a manufacturing plant, it has not seen chemically made fertilizers and herbicides and pesticides. Okay. However, before the crop is planted, most organic farmers are treating the soil with glyphosate as an herbicide, as a weed killer, to make it easier to till the field. They're making their lives easier. Now, when they do that, then they plant seeds in that. So now that naturally means the glyphosate is going to get into the plants as they grow. Glyphosates bind important minerals, which is why a lot of our foods are devoid of minerals, even the organic food. This explains why your organic tomato has 60% less minerals in it than they did 50 years ago. The reason the soil is so poor is because of glyphosate, just so everyone understands that. The second issue is this: if the farmer raises the crop, cuts down the crop, combines it up, sends it off to a manufacturer before the crop is dried, when it gets to whatever mill, they want that grain dried, they will spray it with glyphosate because it kills all living plant material. It's going to dry the grain. So even though you cannot spray glyphosate directly on a growing wheat crop, why? Because it's not genetically modified to tolerate that. That would kill the crop. That's a true statement. That's what I always thought. Why does it matter? It matters because they spray it on the crop to dry it, to make it easier to capture the grains. And when they do that, the sunlight is no longer breaking down gluten into, because it will, the sunlight will break down the amount of gluten in there. And which is why European wheat is not sprayed with glyphosate. European wheat doesn't have as much gluten in it, but genetically it's the same wheat. We don't have different wheat than the Europeans. We put fertilizer on the wheat, which makes it grow more kernels and therefore more gluten. We spray glyphosate on it to dry it, fixing not just glyphosate into your food, but fixing the gluten and the other inflammatory molecules in the grain shaft itself um, get fixed into the wheat grain because of the way
Yeah.
we because of that spraying. So that's what's so damaging to you. Now, when you get regular off the shelf, Pillsbury flour, you might have, 2,000 parts per gram or whatever glyphosate. In an organic Bob's Red Mill, you'll still see three or 400.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll think, so you're not, there's no such thing as zero. There are a lot of patients I have that have on a gluten-free diet, still have upset stomachs, and it's the oats. Why? Because they're spraying your oats with glyphosate. Period. That's how they're gathering the grain. And it's interesting. I had a farmer's wife type, Dr. Toker, I just want you to know that we grow wheat and we do not spray. You can't spray whatever on the wheat and whatever. I was like, how do you harvest it? Oh, we just cut it down and we send it off to the mill. But it's green when you harvested it and sent it to the mill. Yeah.
I,
Then what do you think happens to it? And they're like, well, we don't know what happens to it. Well, I'm telling you
I,
what happens to it.
that
They
what's
spray it.
cool is Coach Bev just said know your source. I think that's the goal that we do, because this is the reality. And Bev, please share that link about the regenerative farming. This is why this when I started teaching food, and like so much of this we didn't know. We quickly learned, don't trust the FDA, don't trust the government, don't trust big pharma, don't trust anyone, because it's all about money. That's all. How can I make something cheaper? Which is why we are the unhealthiest we've ever been in the world. So more knowledge than ever,
Yes.
struggling. People are struggling. And it's these little things. And then it's like when I teach about food, like, oh, I want to have my off-plan meal or my cheat meal or my gratification meal. And the reality is because of your teaching, and Abby always says it all the time, like, dude, you just don't want to do anything. You don't want to go to a restaurant. You don't want to eat pizza because at the end of the day, the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
No.
It's no longer the gratification
Right.
from the meal. It's the
Yes.
counter. Now, with that being said, if you want to have some of that, that's why Zyve exists, because it helps counter to, but the
Zonulin.
is what are you doing to
Yes.
clean it up? So this is where this is in our Zyve Alive group.
And you can counter the zonulin. You cannot counter the chemical effects of the glyphosate. That's the only problem. But yeah.
So so you can do that. So the first step is you got to start. We talk about our 28-day jump start, and we avoid all grains. So like if you're saying I'm struggling, what I need to do, the first thing you need to do is clean it up. Avoid those grains. Start focusing on protein, fats, and carbohydrates that are clean, that are organic, that you feel you can trust the source the best that you can, and then a focus on omega-3 rich. We did a whole thing about olive oil, avocado oil, avoid the seed oils. Like you start there. Then you're right. If you bring grains back in, Dr. Anna, what do we do? So Bev talked about know the source. Is there any way to know the glyphosate? Like, how do we prevent the glyphosate in it?
It's your best option is, first of all, you do have to make sure it's an organic, non-GMO,
Okay.
because at least you have that. They may spray the soil, but at least they're not spraying that crop all the way until it gets to the mill. Knowing not just the source of where it's grown, regenerative farming is good because they won't spray the soil before they get started. And there are some services that will teach small farms how to regenerative farm. So this is a new farming kind of, the old is new, right? So they're going
Mhm.
back to the ways, thank God. Know where things are milled. Personally, I just swap out and I don't do grains anymore. I won't do it. Glyphosate, number one is two molecules kind of combined. One glycine, which is an amino acid your body wants. The other one is phosphate, which is a mineral your body wants. The problem is once it's in your body, that glycine is not really glycine. It
Mm.
gets intercalated into your DNA. It gets intercalated into your collagen, into your joints, into your bones, because your body glycine is a component of collagen. The phosphate will leach calcium out of your bones, giving you
Mm.
brittle bones. So now you've got brittle tendons and brittle bones and brittle DNA as a result of glyphosate. And so you can try to offset that by consuming an organic collagen at the same time, doing the organic non-GMO plant material. Make sure that the animals that you're eating are free range and they're not getting corn or grain or oats.
Yeah.
That's
Grass
their
fed
diet
and grass finished. So
and
you
grass
want to make
finished.
sure, because
Hmm.
grass fed beef can be grain finished. So this is where people trick you.
Yeah.
So it's just not grass fed anymore. Grass fed and grass finished. Abby had a good question, and then we're going to dive into Zyve, because we obviously designed Zyve on how to counter. Once again, there's only so much Zyve can do. So at the end of the day, you got to, like, our goal tonight
It's-
was for you to kind of be like a wake up call, like some water in the face. Like, wait a second, like, trust no one. Do your research. You have the community. We're all these avid people in the space trying to help one another go through the bullshit. Talk
Yes.
us through. Abby talked about the rapid rise of young people with colon cancer.
Yes.
So do you think that this can contribute to this? This in the seed oils?
This very easily, and there's a paper that just came out last month that ties low vitamin D levels to colon cancer. You can tie COVID vaccines to colon cancer. Exposure to artificial colors, artificial sweeteners, this glyphosate situation can all be associated as well. Any chronic inflammation is your setup for cancer. And glyphosate is a carcinogenic. So you got a little inflammation going on with some seed oils. You pop in a couple of carcinogens. Now you're adding a vaccine to that, which is going to ramp up your immune system in the wrong ways, and boom, you got yourself a cancer. So it's multifactorial, and I don't think you can find one thing. My husband and I, and even the children now have gotten to where we do not go out to dinner. Don't. I would rather make dinner and at least have control over some aspect of it. I don't grow all the food myself, then go to a restaurant. It is not worth it to me. I would rather, Stephen, go to the liquor store, buy me some wine. We will pretend we're having dinner here, but we're not going out to dinner. It's just not worth it anymore.
No, I love what Steve said. And, that's how we are now. Like at the end of the day, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. It just isn't. Steve Aspen said it takes me so much longer to shop for food now because I read everything on the labels. And Cheryl, never get discouraged. This is people. She said people get discouraged because when you think you're eating healthier, it's still often not. This is why these calls matter so much, because knowledge is power. You can think you're doing everything, you're not winning. Think about the dream we were all sold. Me and Anna's age. You go buy a house, you get a nice, beautiful lawn that's made with Roundup that kills our dogs. Like, I
Perfect.
just want
That's
everyone to think
perfect.
that's why I
Yes.
say
Yeah.
I tell Abby all the time, I'm never getting grass again. I hate grass. Because I don't like weeds, but
Yep.
what's weed killer? Killer. So,
Yeah.
and then our dogs still, no matter what, and maybe you can solve this one day, Anna, how dogs still eat poison every single day.
God
And then
bless
they
them.
vomit. Like, I don't understand why dogs don't get smarter. But
I
that's a different conversation.
bless them. They're just so sweet, and I love dogs. And anybody who poisons the dog is evil. But I know it in the Toger household. We have animals to eat all the grass and the weeds. So
Yes.
right, so we don't need weed killer. We got animals that eat.
Okay, I love it. Everyone just needs to move to Toker's house. Okay,
Yeah, you need
let's
like a goat or a cow. That's what you need.
let's talk about Zive. So I want to, because I think it's important people understand it's not, once again, it's not your end all be all. But I will tell you, I do 6 a day. People go from 2 to 6, whatever it is. And whenever you're going to have grains, like when I do have grains, I'm always popping my Zive. So like, let's walk through how this helps counter. Won't counter glyphosate, but for the zonulin side, if you are having gluten, if you are having some different grains, how did we? I mean, I know the answer, but tell everyone how we designed this to help counter it.
Right. So the first thing is all of these things, whether it's zonulin or gluten, those are proteins. And proteins get broken down by things called proteases. And so you've got several proteases, including bromelain and papain and this fungal protease. Those things are all designed to break down proteins into small little chunks. So there have been studies on bromelain in particular as a digestive enzyme that can break down zonulin when present. So that's bonus number one. So that if you've got any kind of contaminant that's going to stir up some zonulin, that your Zyve 7, provided that you took it before the meal, is going to actually help offset that by killing the zonulin by the time it gets produced. So there's bonus number one. Bonus number two is that there's a
Well,
series.
hold on, one more question on that, Anna, before bonus number 2. About 15 minutes before I've started taking Anne, who is part of our epic pilot, who's like a folk hero in the world of Zyve 7,
Yes,
Ann P. Ann
yes.
P talked about how she takes 30 minutes before. I like about 20, like 15, 20 minutes before.
Yeah.
If you're taking an hour before, but like, what's your best recommendation?
Yeah, I would think, yeah, I would think best result, at least you need to take it 10 minutes ahead of time. If you take it too far ahead of time, you're missing out on the digestive enzymes. So you're going to wind up having to hit a little bit of a sweet spot.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
like taking it while you're making your meal is probably the best thing to do. You know,
Perfect.
while you're cooking, that's when you take your Zyme.
And
It's not
even
going
if you
to
forget, still take it because
take.
Anna's going to talk about bonus 2 and bonus 3.
All right, so you've got other bonuses in there. So no worries. There are anti-inflammatories in the proprietary blend, so Let's see, the dandelion powder, the black pepper, the marshmallow powder, the juniper, all these things have the psyllium in particular, milk thistle. These things are anti-inflammatory in their nature, and they can offset some of the inflammatory response. Because remember, anything that inflames the intestines for whatever reason is stimulating the damn zonulin. So you can offset that. There's also some cysteine in this blend, and your body will turn cysteine into glutathione, which is the most powerful antioxidant in the human body. So if you've got some cysteine floating around, that's awesome because your body's going to turn it into glutathione, and that is an anti-inflammatory. So that helps as well.
And And then bonus three, we went through this because all my years making digestive products, we would always do in the world of probiotics, if you refrigerate it, it's live. If they're in capsule, you kill most of them. But like to do a mass product around the world, you can't ask people to just refrigerate it. So we did a spore formula, which allows it to stay. So let's talk about the Biotep 7 and how that helps counter zonulin.
Yeah, the beet fiber. So you see the words beet fiber. That's a prebiotic food. It's food for the bacteria, in particular, this combination of lactobacilli and Bacillus coagulans. These are the kind of guys that make that butyrate. Butyrate is that anti-inflammatory short chain fatty acid, and they make it with prebiotic fiber. So when you give these bacteria that fiber, they're making an anti-inflammatory short chain fatty acid your body needs. That's called butyrate. So that's you want beet fiber and you want these lactobacillus in there. The spore formulation is the bacillus aspect of it is the big spore former, and that just means that it's like it's not killable. So if the environment is harsh, if you're on antibiotics, if the pH isn't right, the bacillus is going to survive, and it is very good at out competing bad bacteria like Clostridium difficile, for example, or some of these other bacteria that can make you sick. So bacillus can be a very important bacteria to have. The other lactobacillus are important in women's health. They're important for stress combatants. It's important for blood sugar control. It's important for people who are trying to lose weight. You want this particular combination of lactobacillus.
And that's why when we think about Zive, when we opened up this call about the whole aspect of the 7 steps of digestion, how your digestive system is a one-way highway. This is why we saw incredible results with acid reflux, IBS, every type of digestive challenge. Zive has been a difference maker, as well as the food changes. So this is why, like, some people just start with Zive, and obviously you're in the right direction. People take on the protocol where they're looking at their gluten, their soy, they're moving their body, they're drinking their water, which are crucial. And then people go deeper, like as we talked about, really looking at that 28-day jumpstart, getting more educated about food. Because the more that you take control of your food intake, the more that you can counter what the world is throwing at you, the better. And that's really when we think about leaky gut. Because right now, what do you think? I think, Anna, we talked about that. Maybe 85% of the population has some type of leaky gut right now.
100%. If not more than that. Yep.
Yeah.
If
So
you've got
everyone just
any chronic,
85%, if not more.
yeah, if you have any kind of issue, ranging from I don't remember stuff as well as I used to I've got arthritis, my blood pressure or what my cholesterol is elevated. I mean, whatever your issue is, if there's an issue, you got leaky gut because all of those diseases start in the gut, which is difficult to explain to people. And I've seen a few people like, oh, organic food is so expensive and I can't. First of all, I understand. I have lived extremely poor in my lifetime, and I understand this concept. Here's the thing. You do not have to shop at Trader Joe's or whatever the hell it's called or Whole Food to get organic food. I think it's one of the reasons why we suggest finding a local farmer's market if you can. Or there are online sources to small farms that are no more expensive than the other stuff at the grocery store. So you don't need to throw up your hands and say, well, I can't afford it. First of all, things that are organic, you don't need as much of. Focus your dollars on protein before you worry about any of these filler things. Grains are filler. You do not need that. And honestly, when it comes to fruits and veggies, you don't need a ton of that either. Frankly, you need a variety, you don't need volume. So
And
you don't,
Costco, a
yeah,
membership at Costco, like the aspect of done. So if you don't have access to the local farmers, you
yes,
can go to a Costco, because I think that's the key, is that we think, because unfortunately, you know, a box of cereal is like $5, six
oh yeah,
dollars. Like
it's
at the
cheap. You're
end of
not
the
saving
day,
money. Yeah,
you can get, it's about you being creative and starting where you are and finding stuff. But the facts are the facts.
yeah.
If you don't eat cleaner food, you are struggling
Maybe.
with inflammation. That's just the reality. So
Yeah, I think,
now it's
yeah,
what adjustments to make.
yes. I think, fortunately for us, we are living in a hopeful situation
Mm-hmm.
in that the current administration, and particularly RFK Jr., has a mission because he is correct. It would cost less money to subsidize organic farmers to make that price cheaper than it is to continue medicating sick people. And I don't blame
Yes.
the farmers, frankly. They cannot, when you realize what taxation that they're under, they don't get the same breaks big corporate farms do. If they don't use these chemicals, they cannot make a living. And I understand their desperation. And in my opinion, I think the answer is, look, the government needs to say no taxes for you, Mr. Farmer, if you're organic. You get a
Yep.
0% line of credit when you're organic. You can rent equipment from us at like a discount price if you grow organic. And by organic, I would emphasize you really do want them to do it in the regenerative way, like they would in Europe, where the chemicals don't touch the ground, period. And it will probably take a decade for the soil to come back after all the glyphosate, to be honest with you. But
You,
they need to go to that. We used to farm like this 50 years ago.
Mhm.
We need
Well,
to kind of undo some of the regulations that made it impossible for small farms to stay alive. That's the problem.
well, and our voice matters. Like going to Costco, the reason why Walmart now carries organic food in Costco is because the
Yeah,
shoppers
demand.
demand it. Remember, these companies are not carrying stuff people aren't going to buy.
No,
Same thing when you think about seed oils. We're forcing restaurants, like
seed
Abby,
oil
we
free.
went to Longhorn and they're using soybean oil for the
It's
filet mignon. You're
crazy.
paying $40 for a steak
You're
that is
dripping
made
it
in
in soybean
soybean
oil.
oil. Like,
Crazy.
come on. So, but guess what? If enough people say, I'm not going to Longhorn unless you use olive oil or avocado oil, it costs them more money. But guess what? We would all pay $2 more for a steak to
Yeah.
do that. But see,
Some people
the
always eat.
restaurants don't know that. We determine, we're the society, we're the people. So the more action that each of us make on this, the
Yeah.
better it is. And it starts with you. It starts with how you shop, the
Yeah.
conversations you have, the decisions you make. And if we can do that, we can help our kids and our generations, because we are seeing kids in their 20s now having colon cancer. We're seeing stuff. And the reality
No
is
problem.
that there's so much damage going on, and we got to push back. This all started back in the fat-free craze in the 90s. We have seen this. We've seen the evolution of it. We're in 2025 now, and we've all had enough. And now
Yeah.
it's time to make a stand for that. So start today with you. Start with what you can do on your budget. Think about the food that you don't need anymore. Think about what you're spending on food that you're eating out. Is that really serving your body at
Yeah.
all? Because once you know what you know, you can deny, you can choose not to do it, but you can't deny knowing it. This is the truth. Most of the world has leaky gut, and we have to start solving that. Okay.
So I'm going to say one more thing, and I was shocked
You're
by
gonna
this.
wrap us, Diana. Let's take us home.
I do not go out to dinner anymore. I do not eat fast food anymore. And my husband told me at the hospital, he and a couple guys went to McDonald's to get like a Big Mac, a drink, and fries for two people, cost almost $30. Now, for $30, I have a subscription service to a company called Green Chef. Organic, non-GMO food comes delivered to my house with a recipe book, and it's $10 per person. It is cheaper than a McDonald's Big Mac without the crap in it. Yeah, does it take me 20 minutes to put together? Yeah. But, how long does it take to get in the car, go to crappy McDonald's, get crappy service, and eat crappy food that makes you feel bad,
Mhm.
right? So cost is all relative. You think you can't afford it because, you go into Trader Joe's and everything costs $50. If you're eating out to dinner, you have an opportunity to not affect your budget at all by making this one change, which is cook at home, real food. Cook at home,
Yep.
real food. That's the
And
swap you're going to make instead of going out to dinner.
now I'm gonna ask you one question. Take it home. How long is that McDonald's seed oil staying in, Steve?
2 years.
Two
Two
years. So
years.
everyone know those seed oils. If you missed it, watch it in the guide section. Minimum of 2 years.
Minimum of
That
two
one
years.
McDonald's meal is staying in Steve.
Yeah. Well, and it
Yep.
doesn't rot on the shelf. Have you seen those where they'll have like a hamburger that's 20 years old? Like,
Exactly. Okay. Okay,
make it
everyone.
yourself. You'll save money. I promise. You'll enjoy it. You'll get to know your family again. Trust me.
Thanks for showing up. The chat was amazing. Please, everyone, take the coaching every week and invite anyone you want to this call because there is a revolution going on. We need to seize the moment. We need to educate, educate, educate. And the more that we can do that and the more that we can lead by example, the more we can change the course of the health of our country and the health of the world. Dr.
100%.
Ann, as always, thank you for showing up. I know today wasn't an easy day. We love you. And everyone, thank you for your time. Let's go, Gut Guardians. We got a world to change. Not everybody. Bye.